Everyone, how are we? Standard 9, how is it going? Today we are going to deal with a short story by Ruskin Bond. Okay, it is about the boy who broke the bank. It's an interesting story, it's a humorous story. So let's start with the story of the boy who broke the bank. Now, before I start, I want to tell you about the author. The author was born in Kasauli. Have you heard of Kasauli? Kasauli is in Himachal Pradesh, and that is where the author Ruskin Bond was born. He is an Anglo-Indian, and he was born in the year 1934. If I'm not mistaken, yes, I think it's 19th May 1934. That is when Ruskin Bond was born, and he was born in Kasauli. I'm trying to find the story. The boy who broke the bank, yes. So let's start with the boy who broke the bank, and we'll take a quick reading of the story first, and then we'll come about the rest of the things. Okay, I've given you a slight introduction of Ruskin Bond. You want to read about the author? Let's read. Ruskin Bond, born in 1934, is an Anglo-Indian author who was of a British descent, and he authored more than 500 short stories, essays, novels, including books for children. The Boy Who Broke the Bank, Ruskin Bond, in a deftly worded hyperbole, shows us the damage of a carelessly spoken word can wreak. Okay, the story is almost allegorical in its narrative. It revolves around how one person tells another that there is no money in the bank. The news spreads rapidly from one person to another, each adding his or her own interpretation. So everybody adds their own interpretation. The opinion becomes more important than the facts. So instead of facts, we are facing opinions of people. The truth gets hidden and then it is lost. The plight of children forced to work, the frightening effect of rumors, and the untruths finds powerful expression in this story. So in this introduction itself, we get the themes. That one is the plight of children forced to work, that is one theme, and the frightening effect of rumors, that is another theme. So the two basic themes are given to you over here. Let's read with the story first. Okay, come. The Boy Who Broke the Bank, Ruskin Bond. Nathu grumbled to himself as he swept the steps of the People Nagar Bank, owned by Sheth Govindram. He used a small broom hurriedly and carelessly, and the dust, after rising in a cloud above his head, settled down again on the steps. As Nathu was banging his pan against a dustbin, Sitaram, the washerman's son, passed by. Sitaram was on his delivery round. He had a bundle of freshly pressed clothes balanced on his head. "Don't raise such a dust," he called out to Nathu. "Are you annoyed because they are still refusing to pay you an extra 2 rupees a month?" So now he's asking him a question. Who has asked? Sitaram. "I don't wish to talk about it," complained the sweeper boy. "I haven't even received my regular pay, and this is the 20th of the month. Who would think a bank would hold up a poor man's salary? As soon as I get my money, I am off. Not another week I work in this place." And Nathu banged the pan against a dustbin several times just to emphasize his point and giving himself the confidence. "Well, I wish you luck," said Sitaram. "I'll keep a lookout for any jobs that might suit you." And he plodded barefoot along the road, the big bundle of clothes hiding most of his head and shoulders. At the fourth home he visited, Sitaram heard the lady of the house mention that she was in need of a sweeper. Tying his bundle together, he said, "I know of a sweeper boy who's looking for work. He can start from next month. He's with the bank just now, but they aren't giving him his pay and he wants to leave." "Is that so?" said Mrs. Srivastava. "Well, tell him to come and see me tomorrow." And Sitaram, glad that he had been of service to both a customer and his friend, hoisted his bag on his shoulders and went away. Mrs. Srivastav had to do some shopping. She gave instructions to the ayah about looking after the baby. Now children, here the spelling is Srivastava, but I'm used to saying Srivastav. The actual spelling is Srivastava. Okay, so I think I should be pronouncing it as Srivastava. but whatever I pronounce, it's a proper noun. She gave instructions to the ayah about looking after the baby and told the cook not to be late with the midday meal. Then she set out for the People Nagar marketplace to make her customary tour of the cloth shops. A large shady tamarind tree grew at one end of the bazaar, and it was here that Mrs. Srivastava found her friend Mrs. Bhushan, sheltering from the heat. Mrs. Bhushan was fanning herself with a large handkerchief. She complained of the summer, which she affirmed was definitely the hottest in the history of People Nagar. She then showed Mrs. Srivastava a sample of the cloth she was going to buy, and for 5 minutes they discussed its shade, texture, and design. Having exhausted this topic, Mrs. Srivastava said, "Do you know, my dear, that Seth Govindram's bank can't even pay its employees? Only this morning I heard a complaint from their sweeper who hasn't received his wages for over a month." "Shocking," replied Mrs. Bhushan. "If they can't pay the sweeper, they must be in a bad way. None of the others could be getting paid either." She left Mrs. Srivastava at the tamarind tree and went in search of her husband, who was sitting in front of Kamal Kishore's photographic shop, talking with the owner. "So, there you are," cried Mrs. Bhushan. "I've been looking for you for almost an hour. Where did you disappear?" "Nowhere," replied Mr. Bhushan. "Had you remained stationary in one shop, I might have found you. But you go from one shop to another like a bee in a flower garden." "Don't start grumbling. The heat is trying enough. I don't know what's happening to People Nagar. Even the bank is about to go bankrupt." "What's that?" said Kamal Kishore, sitting up suddenly. "Which bank?" "Why, the People Nagar bank, of course. I hear they have stopped paying employees." "Don't tell me you have an account there, Mr. Kishore." "No, but my neighbor has," he exclaimed, and he called out over the low partition to the keeper of the barber shop next door. "Deep Chand, have you heard the latest? The People Nagar bank is about to collapse. You'd better get your money out as soon as you can." Deep Chand, who was cutting the hair of an elderly gentleman, was so startled that his hand shook and he nicked his customer in the right ear. The customer yelped with pain and distress. Pain because of the cut, and distress because of the awful news he had just heard. With one side of his neck still unshaven, he sped across the road to the general merchant store where there was a telephone. He dialed Seth Govindram's number. The Seth was not at home. Where was he then? The Seth was holidaying in Kashmir. Oh, was that so? The elderly gentleman did not believe it. He hurried back to the barber's shop and told Deepchand, "The bird has flown." And then he dashed out of the shop, making a beeline for his office and checkbook. The news spread through the bazaar with rapidity of forest fire from the general merchants. It traveled to the shop, circulated among the customers, and then spread with them in various directions, to the beetle seller, to the tailor, to the free vendor, to the jeweler, to the beggar sitting on the pavement. Old Ganpat, the beggar, had a crooked leg. He had been squatting on that pavement for years, calling for alms. In the evening, someone would come with a barrow and take him away. He had never been known to walk, but now, on learning that the bank was about to collapse, Ganpat astonished everyone by leaping to his feet and running at top speed in the direction of the bank. It soon became known that he had 1,000 rupees in the savings. Men stood in groups at street corners discussing the situation. People Nagar seldom had a crisis, seldom or never had floods, earthquakes, or drought, and the imminent crash of the People Nagar bank set everyone talking and speculating and rushing about in a frenzy. Some boasted of their farsightedness, congratulating them on having already taken out their money or on never having put in any. Others speculated on reasons for the crash, putting it all down to the excesses indulged in by Seth Govindram. The Seth had fled the state, said one. He had fled the country, said another. He was hiding in Peoplenagar, said a third. He had hanged himself from the tamarind tree, said a fourth, and had been found that morning by the sweeper boy. By noon, the small bank had gone through all its ready cash, and the harassed manager was in a dilemma. Emergency funds could only be obtained from another bank some 30 miles distant, and he wasn't sure he could persuade the crowd to wait until then. And there was no way of contacting Seth Govindram on his houseboat in Kashmir. People were turned back from the counters and told to return the following day. They did not like the sound of that, and so they gathered outside on the steps of the bank shouting, "Give us our money or we'll break in," and "Fetch the Seth, we know he's hiding in the safe deposit locker." Mischief makers who didn't have a paisa in the bank joined the crowd and aggravated their mood. The manager stood at the door and tried to placate them. He declared that the bank had plenty of money but no immediate means of collecting it. He urged them to go back and come back the next day. "We want it now," chanted some of the crowd. "Now, now, now." And a brick hurtled through the air and crashed through the plate glass window of the Peoplenagar Bank. Nathu arrived the next morning to sweep the steps of the bank. He saw the refuse and the broken glass and the stones cluttering the steps. Raising his hands in a gesture of horror and disgust, he cried, "Hooligans! Sons of donkeys! As though it isn't bad enough to be paid late. It seems my work has also to be increased." He smote the steps with his broom and scattering the refuse. "Good morning, Nathu," said the washerman's boy, getting down from his bicycle. "Are you ready to take up a new job from the first of the next month? You'll have to, I suppose, now that the bank is going out of business." "How's that?" said Nathu. "Haven't you heard?" "Well, you'd better wait here until half the population of Peoplenagar arrives to claim their money." And he waved cheerfully. He did not have a bank account and sped away on his cycle. Nathu went back to sweeping the steps, muttering to himself. When he had finished his work, he sat down on the highest step to await the arrival of the manager. He was determined to get his pay today. "Who would have thought that the bank would collapse?" he said to himself, looked thoughtfully into a distance. "I wonder how it could have happened." So that is the story, that the person who was responsible for breaking the bank, he is the person who is absolutely unaware. He is wondering, how could it have happened that a bank has been broken? Okay, so with that we come to the setting, and in the setting this time I've written a note for the setting, because the setting is very important, and the setting actually gives you the entire gist of the story. If you make a note about the setting, I've given it to you children, please take a copy. I hope you all can see it. Okay, this is the setting which we need to understand before we actually work into anything else. So first I've given you a note on the author. Let's read it. Take a screenshot or write it down. I always recommend writing. The Boy Who Broke the Bank. Ruskin Bond, born on 1934. The author is of a British descent, born at Kasauli, Himachal Pradesh, faced the challenges of parental divorce at an early age. His mother married a Punjabi Hindu. He was brought up by his mother and his stepfather after the passing away of his natural father. He was educated at the Bishop Cotton School, Shimla, and he was awarded the Padma Shri in the year 1999. Okay, so the setting of the story. The story is set in a small fictional town of Nagar, and the town is characterized by its simplicity and the mundane lives of its inhabitants. The author has set up the story in such a way that the reader feels as if he is walking through the village, accompanying every person who is spreading the rumor. The bank is shown as an important instrument of financial transactions, as it is the only bank in Nagar, and the next closest bank is 30 miles away. The setting is crucial as it portrays a closely knit community where everyone knows each other and news and rumors both spread fast. A small comment from Nathu, the sweeper, snowballs and eventually causes panic in the town. The marketplace with the adjacent shop having low partitions serves as the focal point for exchange of rumors. And the shady tamarind tree is a popular gathering spot for the townfolk. The use of colloquial language provides the feel of the life in a small town in India, named by the author as Nagar. Okay, so this much for the setting, and we have understood that the setting is very important. Now let's go into the details of the story. Before that, I would like to tell you all, we'll do the details first. You've understood the setting. I hope the setting is a fictional town of Nagar and the rest of it that we've read. Nathu grumbled his complaint to himself as he swept the steps of the Nagar bank owned by Sheth Govindram. He used a small broom hurriedly and carelessly, and the dust, after rising in a cloud about his head, settled down on the steps again. As Nathu was banging his pan, means his dust pan, against a dustbin, Sitaram, the washerman's son, passed by. Sitaram was on his delivery round. He had a bundle of freshly pressed means ironed, freshly ironed clothes which were balanced on his head. Now this word pressed over here is a colloquial term. Okay, so in that area, for ironing they use the word press. So he has said pressed. It is not that press. Okay, so pressed. Don't raise such a dust, he called out to Nathu. Are you annoyed because they are refusing to pay you an extra rupee? 2 extra rupees a month. So now Nathu and this sweeper boy, they are friends. So because the iron man's son is asking him that why are you raising so much of a dust? Are you angry because the bank is refusing to pay you 2 rupees extra a month? So means the bank has refused to raise Nathu's salary by 2 rupees. So he's saying, are you angry because of that? So Nathu now retorts. He's even more angry. I don't wish to talk about it, he complained, the sweeper boy. I haven't even received my regular pay. He's saying, forget the raise of salary. I've not got my regular pay. And this is the 20th of the month. I've still not got my regular pay. Who would think a bank would hold up a poor man's salary? As soon as I get my money, I am off. Not another week I work in this place. And Nathu banged the pan against the dustbin several times just to emphasize his point and giving himself confidence. So now here we see the only thing he has is his dustpan. So to give himself that confidence, to get that noise, he bangs it. He does it out of anger. Okay, well, I wish you luck, said Sitaram. I'll keep a lookout for any jobs that might suit you. And he plodded barefoot along the road, the big bundle of clothes hiding most of his head and shoulders. Now the meaning of plodded is to walk slowly, because you have because on your head there is some load. Okay, so the istri wala, the press fellow, is carrying the load on his head. So that is the meaning of plodded, to walk slowly because of the load on your head. And now if you notice over here, the author Ruskin Bond, he has used visual imagery. You can almost visualize that iron, press wala's, what is he called? Whose son is he? 1 minute. Washerman. They've used the word washerman over here. So here it actually means the washerman's son. Means he had pressed his clothes and he had brought it. It was on his head and he was carrying it. So he plodded along slowly, slowly, slowly. So that is a visual imagery. Visual imagery is something which the author uses words to create that vision in your mind. Okay. At the fourth home he visited, Sitaram heard the lady of the house mention that she was in need of a sweeper. Tying his bundle together, he said, I know of a sweeper boy who's looking for work. He can start from next month. He's with the bank just now, but they aren't giving him his pay and he wants to leave. Is that so? Said Mrs. Srivastav. Well, tell him to come and see me tomorrow. And Sitaram was happy. He was glad that he was able to help his friend. So he put his bag. Now what has he done? He has given up some clothes over there. So he hoisted his bag on his shoulder. So now he's taking his bag on his shoulder because the clothes must have reduced. Okay. And he went on his way. Mrs. Srivastava had to do some shopping. She gave instructions to the ayah. Now the word ayah is again a colloquial language, a colloquial word which is used in those parts. Okay. So where this story is set, where People Nagar is set, People Nagar Bank is set in that village. So ayah means a woman whose job is to look after the children. Okay, that is the meaning of ayah. It's not a servant, it's an ayah who looks after the children. So this is again a colloquial language. We did that in the setting that the use of colloquial language makes it very realistic. That's why I gave you the setting first. And told the cook not to be late with the midday meal. Then she set out for the People Nagar marketplace to make her customary tour of the cloth shops. A large shady tamarind tree grew at one end of the bazaar, and it was here that Mrs. Srivastav found her friend Mrs. Bhushan sheltering from the heat. Mrs. Bhushan was framing herself with a large handkerchief. She complained of the summer, which she affirmed. Affirmed means to state something emphatically that yes, it is very, very hot. Okay, the hottest in the history of People Nagar. She then showed Mrs. Srivastav a sample of the cloth that she was going to buy, and for 5 minutes they discussed its shade, its texture, and its design. So now here the author has given us a very mundane activity when two women meet. Now, and the description he has given is that of a tamarind tree. Tamarind tree. Tamarind, is imli. So they are standing under that tree and they are discussing. And what are they discussing? It is just talk between two women. Like this lady, Mrs. Bhushan, she's going to buy some cloth. And that cloth she's saying, so she's talking to Mrs. Srivastav that see, this is the cloth I'm going to buy. How is the design? How is the texture? Do you like it? And all that they are talking. First they talked about the climate, about the weather. That is very hot. Then the next point they discussed was about the texture and design and the shade, the color of the cloth and all. Then after they had finished all that talking, they still want to talk more. So now all this time who has been talking? Mrs. Bhushan. She is talking. Now Mrs. Srivastav also wants to talk something. So she also starts talking. And what does she say? Do you know, my dear, that Seth Govindram's bank can't even pay its employees? Only this morning I heard a complaint from their sweeper who hasn't received his wages for over a month. Now, what has Mrs. Srivastav said? He has said a very simple thing. He has said, she is saying that, washerman's son tell that my friend wants a job because the bank has not paid it. But now see how slowly that rumor, that one statement is going to snowball. So it begins over here. It starts with the first statement. What does he say? I heard a complaint from their sweeper. Now she has not actually met the sweeper, but I heard a complaint from their sweeper who hasn't received wages for a month. For 1 month they have not paid their sweeper. Shocking, remarked Mrs. Bhushan. If they can't pay the sweeper, they must be in a bad way. None of the others could be getting paid. So now what is Mrs. Bhushan saying? Oh my God, that is so shocking. How can you even think of that? Imagine if they're not paying the sweeper, then obviously the other employees are also not getting paid. So now it is snowballing. From the sweeper, it has gone to all the other employees. Okay, she left Mrs. Srivastav at the tamarind tree and went in search of her husband. So now she felt, I must immediately go and look for my husband because I must give him this news that People Nagar Bank is not paying its employees. So she went in search of her husband, who was sitting where? In front of Kamal Kishore's photographic shop, talking to the owner. So there you are, cried Mrs. Bhushan. I've been looking for you for almost an hour. Where did you disappear? She's very angry. Nowhere, replied Mr. Bhushan. Had you remained stationary in one shop, I might have found you. But you go from one shop to another like a bee in a flower garden. So she's angry, not angry, but she's irritated. But Mr. Bhushan is equally irritated. And he says, I have not gone anyway. You are the person who is roaming all around. Typical husband wife conversation is going on. You are the person, you are to blame. Whenever a husband and wife fight, you all must be knowing your parents. Whenever they argue, what happens is neither wants to accept their defeat. Both the people say, I am right, you are wrong. Both of them will say. So we'll leave them over there with this simile which the author has used over here, like a bee in a flower garden. That is a simile which has been used over here to compare Mrs. Bhushan to a bee who is roaming around in a flower garden. Now we'll leave both these husband and wife to argue with each other, and I'll continue in my next module with the next part of the story, where we will see the rest of it and all that the author has used, and the rest of the things that I'm supposed to discuss with you about the title and everything. Till then, I want you all to understand the story. Of course, you have understood, but read the setting, learn it so that it's easier for me to explain when I come again with the when we continue with the same story in my next module. Bye then, see you all.